Well, good afternoon, Joseph.
Hello, Michelle. Well, it's on the border of afternoon.
12:01 for me.
Oh, it's late. Let's
Good
go for
to
lunch.
good to see you. I am so excited to have yet another amazing comedian with me today on Michelle's Conversations That Matter. I am thrilled that we're going to talk about your entrepreneurial arts journey. And I'm sure that people are going to learn from your story. So thanks for making the time to join me today.
My pleasure. You like my hardwired earpiece? I
I
think
like it. I
I
like
think I
it.
got this. I think I got this with my 8-track player in '79. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So just a little bit about the series and what I do for people who don't know. This is Michelle's Conversations That Matter. The whole goal of this series is to elevate the conversation about mental health and really educate or inspire people around the whole mental health narrative. I think we need to do a better job demystifying mental health and removing the stigma. So that's what I'm out to do. I have people like you joining me with their experiences. I also host conversations with clinicians so they can educate us on different types of diagnosis. And what I do professionally is I get to work with organizations to really help recenter their employees and have them feeling good and grounded in things they can do to preserve their well-being. So that's just a little bit about me. And if you will, can you take a minute?
So basically, you're a drug dealer.
Not really, but if you want to call me that, listen, I'll give you permission.
Whatever works, whatever helps. Go ahead.
I would love for you to take a second, introduce yourself to the audience, who you are, where you live, and what you do for a living.
The long or the short answer. The short answer is my name is Joseph Anthony. I dropped the long Italian surname for show business over 31 years ago. I live in Howell, New Jersey, but I am definitely not from this one-horse town. Born and raised, as you could probably tell from the accent, in Vietnam. Come from a line of sharecroppers, and that's a dead giveaway, I'm sure. Now, born and raised in New York, born in Staten Island, raised partly in Brooklyn, and I have a lot to talk about that. And I am a stand-up comedian, or at least I was until March of 2020. These days, it's starting to trickle back in. So that's the short answer.
Awesome, and that's enough to get us going. We are going to talk about the trials and tribulations and the journey of being in the entrepreneurial arts space, especially navigating COVID, as you just mentioned. But before we dive into that, I can't help but mention yesterday was the 7th anniversary of the passing of comedian Robin Williams. And he was someone that we were all very, very shocked would have suffered in silence, because he made us laugh with all of his work. He even, he was super successful. He tried everything that he wanted to do. I don't know. I mean, could you give us your insights into comedians? Like, why are they the ones that suffer in silence and make us laugh? You know what I mean?
Well, not all of them, but I think quintessentially, if that's the right word, or stereotypically or historically, the real good ones, the real pseudo-brilliant ones, are the ones that have some darkness, if not a lot of darkness. The ones that are usually silly are just fine and had a perfect upbringing. But there's a string of them besides Robin. Freddie Prinze, very young, very at the top of his career. Bill Hicks, the guy who broke ground for everyone, Lenny Bruce, and so Richard Jeni, another unsung hero. And everybody's situation is different, but as a whole, I think anyone who suffers from mental illness, depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, all things I'm all too familiar with, usually suffers in silence. And for what it's worth, I think two of the ingredients to being a good stand-up is being funny, which a lot of them aren't. Sorry, I'm a cynic. And having a very kind of demented scope, so to speak, or some sort of dysfunction where you need to sort of let it out. I think that's what makes us funny is that kind of like, slipping on the ice, car out of control situation. I don't know. I don't overanalyze it, but I know I've been very successful on the performance front. Career-wise, it's been a roller coaster, but on the performance front, I've always been sort of well respected and well received, and I'm probably one of the most screwed up people you ever meet.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. They say that adversity shapes us. There's this quote.
Hold on, let me get my Ativan. I'll be right back. We're gonna have this conversation. I need Ativan and Cymbalta at the ready. Go ahead. I took them already.
All right, good. So when we talk about adversity, right? Like it's said that like adversity shapes us. There's a quote that I recently stumbled across, and I love it. It's great opportunities are often brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. Talk to us about your personal journey. Talk to us about those adversities that you've had to navigate in your life that have had you sort of emerge out of them with a different perspective.
It's a very long list. What made me seek outlets as a child would have been without dissecting the whole situation. My father was a compulsive gambler, so there was a lot of situations in the house, a lot of arguing, a lot of financial things, and moving a lot. We moved, quite regularly. I could load a moving truck in the middle of the night at the age of 7, like nobody's business. So that will, I guess, make you seek outlets. So that would be one of the good things that came of a bad situation. In more recent years, when I was also sort of at a very, I don't want to say it, I guess it was dark, but it was really a scary place where my relationship with my then manager was not going well. He was not being productive, and he was a narcissist, so he was putting it off on me. And these things weren't going as I had planned or hoped, and money got tight, and I was dealing with medical stuff. I already had both my knees replaced, and now I was dealing with needing a hip replacement and living in pain 24/7. I had to take a day job, and then it really came to a head where I lost that day job because they shut down the facility. I was doing gym memberships, like a sales job.
Okay.
And it was a cool enough gig. I just was I've always been terrible at sales. People always think when they meet me, "Oh, you're a stand-up comic. You're personable. You'll be the greatest salesman in the world." No, I have a face, and good salesmen have no face. I don't know if you know that expression. They have no face. In other words, they're always looking at the sale. No matter what you're saying to them, they're thinking of closing the deal.
Right.
And I'm not that kind of guy. I like to listen, assess people. That's why I'm funny, because I can tear a person down in 10 seconds. I'm a good judge of character. That's kind of a street thing. But they closed the facility, so now I had no job. But then the guy I had worked for was kind enough, when he set himself up again at a new facility, he brought me in. And long story short, the 3 days that preceded it was on New Year's Eve, my heat went down. It was about 3 degrees outside. This was 2017 for the new year of 2018. And we had no heat for 3 days, literally 40 degrees in the house, walking around with layers of jackets. It was horrible. And I started the job on the first day, January 3rd of that. That evening, I was going to a local store, and mind you, I didn't really want to go, and I was like, let me go. I was going to get a cigar. I was like, I think I need this. This was a stressful day. This is going to be like high-pressure sales. It's not what I want to be doing in my life. And I got hit head-on about a mile from the house by a guy doing like I don't know, 80 miles an hour. Like just flying, banking the turns and hit me head on. And I survived with, I guess what you'd say, minimal injuries, although I am kind of permanently pseudo crippled in my ankle. I broke the tibia and the fibula completely severed, and I'm lucky to be alive. Now, the reason I said all of that is because people always think that those near-death experiences, which it definitely was, will be this, you know, this great awakening. And I remember I didn't really know what had happened until I saw pictures of my car, and I was like, I walked away from that, and I remember thinking, this is a wake-up call. But I was so far down. That's why I told all the backstory. I was so far down the well preceding that.
Yeah.
That I'm like, because I had already been thinking, I need to wake up, but I didn't know what I needed to do. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know what was next. How I had logistically, I understood meditation. Logistically, I understood, you know, spiritual teachers and all kinds of motivation. I understood it logically, but I couldn't get it to click. So even when I said, okay, this is your wake up call, I'm like, but what am I to do?
Right.
You know, the business has gone really stagnant. I've been at this forever. And well, so the I guess what happened is during that downtime and that recovery time, I did reconnect with my act. I did reconnect with teachings of like Wayne Dyer and stuff like that.
Nice.
And it still didn't, you know, there were more surgeries that followed the accident. I finally got the hip replacement. I had to.
Right.
And the surgery was a waste of time and a disaster that the first guy did. So in 2019, I had to get the ankle completely reconstructed. So this was like the never-ending road of surgeries and rehab and financial issues and the relationship with the manager finally ending and like starting over again and not even knowing if I really wanted to do this anymore because it had become very like merry-go-round, like same old, like any job.
Right.
So, you know, I finally, I guess I got to a point where it's hard for me to say. You know, I used to live like all or nothing. Then I was living in fear, and I'm kind of getting to a point, and it's not easy to get there, of kind of acceptance where, and again, I quote Wayne Dyer, who quotes Lao Tzu, who wrote the Tao Te Ching, which is have a mind that is open to anything but attached to nothing.
Yes. Yep.
That was a very long-winded, boring answer.
No, not at all.
I should be funnier. Let's do it again. This time I'll put on a rubber hat or something, or I'll kill a chicken.
What do you take from those experiences? Like all of that adversity. So you're dealing with surgeries, you're dealing with challenges with your manager, you're dealing with COVID. You can't even go out and do what you love to do. Like how did you emerge from that? And what were the experiences that you took from all of that adversity?
Well, you know, say the question again.
What did you take from all of those challenges when you look at them in the rear view?
Okay. Well, if I have two children, so that was the two people I could not let down.
Yeah.
Not everybody has that kind of, you know, love and support system and inspiration.
Yeah.
But I definitely learned that you got to fight. You got to fight. It's not enough to walk around going Om.
Yeah.
You got to fight. If you don't have a fighter's instinct, you better get one, because nobody's gonna hand it to you. You got to fight. You got to be tenacious.
You shared with me that you believe that nothing is impossible. Why do you believe that?
Well, if I shared that from someone who's kind of subclinical anxious, my frontal lobe, and I don't know the science behind it, doesn't really believe that. It doesn't really believe that nothing is impossible. It doesn't. But I do believe that if you, if you ground yourself and you focus enough and you will it enough, yes, I've seen things happen. They do change if, again, you focus, you connect with a higher power, you care for yourself. Again, you try very hard, especially if you have OCD, to stay grounded and focus on things. You may not see it at first, but then when you look back, you're like, oh, something did shift.
Yep.
So, at one time, go ahead. I'll let you go on. I don't want to.
No. You're mentioning the word grounded, and for people who are listening, what does that mean? Grounded. What does that mean? So how do you stay grounded? I mean, talk to us about your experience, maybe with meditation, and how you recognize that was a valuable tool for you to feel grounded.
Well, I'll tell you that meditation is wonderful, but sometimes for whatever reason, because of stuff that's going on in your life, or how your meditation is going, or whatever it is, just understanding how to meditate is its own thing. But sometimes it doesn't have the effect it once did. Like when I first was introduced to meditation as a young teen in karate, then reintroduced to creative visualization with my acting coach, Joanna Bexon, in 1995. And that book, just changed my life, because I was doing all the techniques, and I was single. And when you're single and on your own and kind of having fun, it's easy to focus on you and you alone.
Yeah.
You start layering in marriage and kids and bills and all that other stuff. It's not so easy to find a quiet place and say, I'm the greatest and my goals are going to happen.
Yeah.
Suddenly you don't start to believe it, and meditation is not quite melting it away. But and that was kind of where I was at not too long ago, where as much as things were not terrible, they did feel terrible. And the ruminating thoughts in my head kept having conversations of what to do next, because you got to make it better, because you got to do something else, you got to succeed, you got to fix this, you got to make money, you got to blah, 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 it just, and it's just, it's an internal, Vietnam, it's an internal war. And, but grounding is something I kind of re-stumbled upon recently, and it's the simplest, greatest technique to being present. Essentially, there's many ways to do it, but the way I was shown is to simply just focus on a physical object, a tree, your computer, whatever's around you. Just take a deep breath and then look at the things around you and basically get a sense of, I'm here. This is all that exists.
Present.
And it gives you a sense of peace, and then maybe you could take a little control back. But when you're paying for the past, or wishing for the past, and I've been there, or you're planning for the future, or fearing the future, you're never going to get off that habit trail wheel. And habit trail dates me, by the way. That was the little gerbil thing where they ran around, and I didn't really want a rat in the house, but I did want one of the setups. If I could get in it, that would be great.
What advice do you have for other, maybe young comedians who
quit?
Really?
I'm an attorney. You'll represent me one day, I'm sure.
I would just love to hear, it's one of those things. I guess if you could even if you could tell your younger self how to navigate this more effectively, what would you say?
I have an answer for that, but it's threefold.
Okay.
If you would have asked me that, or oxed, I can't. People tell me I say certain things wrong because of my Southern Alabama accent. If you would have asked me that, a fourth year or some shit stuff, I would have said, 20 years ago. So I was very inspired by Eddie Murphy was on an interview with Arsenio. They were kind of buds.
Yeah.
And Arsenio asked him, which I'm sure was scripted, now, you never had, because he started very young, Eddie.
Yeah.
You never had a fallback, something else. Why didn't you never have a fallback if this didn't work out? And Eddie said, if I had a fallback, that would mean I didn't believe that this was going to happen. I didn't believe in myself 100%. And that's the ideology I live by. I walked away from the greatest jobs. I walked away from businesses. I walked away from it all because I believe that. And to some extent, I succeeded to some extent.
Yeah.
Then more midlife and going back not too many years, there's a trickle down from the economic debacle of 2009, and that punches you in the stomach. And then there's 2015 with the knees, and 2018 with the car accident, and the ankle and the hip, and just the whole financial structure is crumbling, and the business relationship is crumbling, and the business becomes more about social media and not about live performance, and venues are going away, and everybody's competing for the same stuff, and your marriage is less than perfect or existent, and all these things. And suddenly my ideology becomes, and by who I'm speaking it to would probably unfortunately be my children, who I raised as little babies, to believe in your dreams and go for it. And I still say that, but then there's a little voice that says, but don't shy away from something steady. Enjoy this. If it's meant to be. I became more of walking the tightrope, because my fears were transcending on them, even though I didn't want them to.
Right.
Where am I at now? And it took me a long time and much introspection and bruised knees to get here, is more to what I said before, that that being present, having that mind that's open to anything and attached to nothing. So you just kind of live for the day. So my advice would be, it depends on your situation.
Yeah.
Really, there is no one set of advice.
Yeah.
You got to do what works for you. There's nothing wrong with making a living and pursuing your dreams. You put all those eggs in that one basket, and that basket can break.
Yeah.
So, there is not one set of advice. It's fine. Find what works and go with it for as long as it works. And then if it doesn't work anymore, do something else. But don't overload. That's the thing. Keep it simple. I always have that problem of one goal turns into another goal, turns into another goal. My goals have baby goals, and suddenly, I'm frozen to the bed in the morning, going, I don't want to get up.
Too much. Yeah. Too much. Yeah. It's interesting what you shared about the advice that Eddie Murphy said, because I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and he uses the phrase burn the boats. Burn the boats so that you are fully committed to what you're doing. If you can get back in the boat and go back, then your commitment is not where it should be. So it's the same philosophy, like having a fallback, but you do have to balance it with being silly, you have to balance it.
Yeah. That's I guess maybe you could say that's a foolproof philosophy for a young man or a younger woman. Mm-hmm. Maybe at a different point, if things aren't exactly the way you envisioned, you may have to have more of an open mind.
Mm-hmm. So favorite part of being a comedian, and who's your greatest influence?
I hate that question.
Sorry.
And I should have like a little cue card that I go to, because every interviewer asks me that. See,
I didn't tell you that I was going to ask you that question, but I know that people in the audience want to know, who did you listen to? Who did you look up to?
Okay. It's not a cut and dry answer. You said favorite part of being a comedian?
Yeah. What do you love about the whole stand-up bit?
I have to go back in my head a little bit, because obviously the show has been very sporadic lately. Then there were none for a while. And prior to that, I was a little unplugged, just kind of doing things by rote. Sorry to my fans, but I always pulled it off. But at one time, it would have been the greatest part about being a comedian is not really making the people laugh so much as making them think, "Oh my God, I know what he's saying. Oh my God, I've been there. This guy's saying what I think." Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like you say something and people are so blown away with laughter or nodding heads that you're like, "Oh man, I just hit on something. I just hit on what that person couldn't put into words for their whole life or their current life." So yeah, that's very cool. And I've always sort of been able to sort of achieve that, when it comes to the topics I talk about anyway. Less of an observationalist, more autobiographical. So I say things and people are blown away because I'm like, oh, I'm talking about the little voice in their head.
Yeah, you are for sure.
Coming out of this foul-mouthed Italian guy. As far as part two, which was help me out.
Your influence.
Oh, influence. Yeah. Okay. So I'll just do it chronological.
Okay.
As a boy in my house, we had, which was sort of a rite of passage for every Italian American. The way Jewish people have certain traditions. Every Italian home had to have a Pat Cooper album. And for those that don't know Pat Cooper, and I'd say anyone under the age of 40, 45 probably doesn't know Pat Cooper, which is sad. The way a lot of people don't know who Lenny Bruce is. These were groundbreakers in the 50s and 60s. And we had a Pat Cooper album. I should get it. It's not far away. Somebody had give me a copy of it. It's called Our Hero. He's laying in a giant sandwich, a hero sandwich. And I would listen to it. And I was so young. And I didn't really know what he was talking about. But I loved the sound of his voice. It was like my father doing stand-up. Similar New York Italian accent. And that he had a voice, and I loved the people laughing because it's live. So Pat Cooper was my first influence, and then I got to work with him and get friendly with him when I started in stand-up.
Wow.
20 some odd years later. So that's another cool story. But then I gravitated to because Pat was saying things in his day, and he doesn't get when you do all those comedy specials and you do everyone from Alan King to Lucy and everybody in between, and they all deserve a certain amount of credit, yes, but they never mentioned Pat. You know why? Because Pat had no filter. He was the same guy off stage as he was on, so he pissed everybody off. He was edgy, hardcore. He said the first thing that came, and people don't like that. In show business, you could do that on stage, but, at the restaurant, you got to be a different guy, and Pat never was. And I'm kind of like that. And he even told me, "You can't do that." I said, "Why not? You do it." He said, "I'm a star." You can't piss people off yet. You're not a star. So I grab, as a younger guy, not from Pat's generation, although admiring him, I gravitated to the guys that really push the envelope and not contrived shock value comics. There's some out there I won't undermine them, and some of them are very, very popular and make a ton of money, or they're famous or pseudo famous. But guys that really had a voice like no other, like Sam Kinison. Predecessor to Sam Kinison, Bill Hicks. A lot of people don't know Bill Hicks, but he was brilliant. Okay, look him up. Bill Hicks, Sam Kinison. I did have a little bit of admiration for Dennis Leary because he was edgy, but then there's a lot of rumors about Leary sort of being a little bit shady in the way he got what he got. And you know what? In this business, it doesn't matter because he's got the most successful career. Bill Hicks OD'd, and Kinison died in a car accident when he finally got clean. So there's no justification. That's why I say just live for the moment, do what you do, and love everybody and screw everybody at the same time. But two others I'd like to mention. A guy who's not so known unless you're a stand-up. And when I say stand-up, I don't mean the movies and TV that they've done. A stand-up fan is Brian Regan. Always cracked me up. Yeah, see, you don't know him. But Brian Regan is hysterical. I mean, he's one of the few comics who made me laugh. And another guy who made me laugh, I didn't know Brian, but another guy who I knew who used to make me laugh on stage, although I hear he's gone into, Jerkville himself, but that's because he's a billionaire, is Kevin James.
Yeah.
Ray never made me laugh, Ray Romano.
Yeah.
Who Kevin owes his whole career to.
Yes, yeah.
Ray brought Kevin in when Letterman said, "I'm going to help this guy Ray out." But
I love Kevin James. That guy makes.
But Kevin made me laugh when I used to do the open mic nights with him out at Governor's in Long Island.
Nice.
So does that answer the question?
Yes, funny dude. I liked him. I liked him a lot. I actually saw him do stand up. Where did I see him? I saw him someplace. I want to say I don't know how many years ago, but he was funny, and I was skeptical because I'd only known him from King of Queens,
Right.
And that was how I knew him.
Yeah, a lot of people are disappointed these days. I can't speak for when people don't realize when you're a stand-up, it's they think it's great. You make people laugh. You get hotel rooms and free drinks. Yeah, and that gets old. Yeah. That's great in your 20s. I mean, I love the road. And then if you don't get to another level or hit pay dirt or flex different creative muscles, man, you're stuck on stage. I mean, I worked with Dom Irera, who's hysterical. Also love Dom. And Dom came out with me at Harrah's, sold out room, 1,400 people. We did a comedy concert series, and I was the host for 10 weeks down there. And Dom actually did the first and the last show, and I loved hanging out with him. What a fun! It was like I knew him. He's a South Philly guy. I'm a South Brooklyn guy. It's like I knew him. And Dom went out there. He had been drinking quite a bit of wine too, because I know he's like, I don't want to do this stuff anymore. Everybody I came up with is ridiculously successful and rich. I have to do this to make a check. Or maybe he doesn't, but kind of does, or he wouldn't do it. And people go, well, why do they stop doing stand-up? It's great. No, because you want the movie career, you want the TV career, you want the writing gig, or you want to be able to pick and choose your venues. And when you have to do it, it loses its luster. And he was out there for 10 minutes, just kind of pandering, and people were like, what's he doing? And I knew exactly what he was feeling.
Yeah.
And I've been there, and I've been quitting this business in my head for many years, and I know it's discouraging to a lot of up and comers, but since the pandemic, the thing I've been doing most that I love, although it's frightening because it's like breaking even much harder ground than stand up, is writing.
Wow.
Writing a lot of autobiographical stuff. I was putting out a newsletter for 21 weeks straight, and then I was like, who's really reading this? And then I shut it down for a while. Now I've been writing some stories, submitting to some contests, but I'm in a more, sort of deep place in my life, and I don't want to just be the clown. I want to tell some of these stories, and hopefully I'm a good writer. I think I am, but you want different ways to flex the muscle, I guess, and that's why big names, to bring it back to point, that's why big names don't come back to stand up, or when they do, they pick and choose what they want. They make a ton of money because they kind of let me give it a shot, or because they're not sitting there writing the next thing for the next gig. They're just not. Yeah. They're just not. They're busy people when they hit the stratosphere. And so Kevin, I've had a lot of bad reviews about him from people that saw him, even from industry people that say, oh, he's this, he's that. When I say I liked him, I'm going back to when he was just a stand-up before he got paid dirt. And he was a funny guy. That's all. He's a funny guy. He's a nice guy. Then, my favorite stand-up today is definitely Joseph Anthony. I don't know if you heard of him, but he has a very fancy ear device.
But I heard that guy, Joseph Anthony, is going to be down at the Borgata. True story?
Yes. I got a job as a busboy, and I'm pretty stoked about it because I get to work near the waitresses, and they have a weight limit. So I know that's sexist. I'm going. Me and Cuomo. Hey, Cuomo, what are you doing? No, I was on the podcast with Michelle, and I said the wrong thing. I'm Italian, just like you. That's political. Apparently, he's Italian. Makes us all look bad. Should have just said, I'm from a different generation. Don't throw culture into it. We just got over Jersey Shore. Now you're ruining for all of us.
So
Yes,
that's
I'm gonna be at the Brigada, and
yeah.
hopefully not as depressing as this interview. Although I will make the depressing funny, or else they'll find me alone in a hotel room like all the others. You finish. I know it's terrible, but you know the thoughts cross the mind. You'll September 26th. What a promotion! I just lost the gig. I think September 26th or October 2nd. Every night in the Music Box except
Nice.
Thursday.
Awesome. Awesome. Now, what's that going to be like? Is this all fresh content? Like, is this like your big return? Talk to us about what's
A
going
little
on.
bit of both. My shows are seldom the same.
Okay.
Typically doing something like a casino gig. I because such a big theater, you know, it seats like 1,000. I would stick more to the script, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go off. I'm not going to go off script. It doesn't mean I'm not going to throw in some new stuff or just some improved or tweaked tags. When I do the smaller venues, I improvise a lot. You know, I've been known to do entire shows off the cuff. Where people are like, "Is that your act?" I'm like, "No, it was just I started with an act and I ended just having a giant group therapy session, and it was funny." But yeah, you know, I've written a little. When I talk about writing the last 8 months or so, I've written very little stand up.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly been more dramedy kind of stuff and memoir kind of, you know, memoir driven stuff. But yeah, there's always stuff, and I always like to mix it up and turn it around, and it'll be great. It's always great, even when I hate it down to the last second before they call my name. I walk out there and I get the first laugh, and I go, "Oh, that's why I'm here, and you're good at this," and then it just takes care of itself.
Good for you. Good for you. What's after that? Are you looking to do more, you know, headline, bigger venues? What are you looking to do?
Well, one other plug, I have this YouTube political sketch show that's going to be on September 3rd. I don't have times or details, but it's called No Filter. You can look for it, and it's filter without the E. Is that correct? You're part of that too, right? No Filter, I think. Yeah, No Filter without the E. So check that out. And as far as the future, I really don't know. You know, I when people ask me, what have you done? What do you do? I say, I've done everything twice, if not 3 times. You know, I've headlined some of the biggest rooms. I've opened for the biggest acts. I've done every form of transportation, from boats to theaters to comedy clubs. It's just, it's exhausting, you know, in the sense of, you know, pursuing the work.
Yeah.
They don't ring your phone unless you sell the tickets, and I don't promise to sell tickets. I promise you a great show, and that's the whole business end of it. But
yeah,
you know, if it were up to me, I would love to be picking and choosing my gigs and doing the material that I want to do, and only that's a fly. I don't know if he was invited on the show, and doing only the material that I want to do, but more so doing more writing. In particular, being part of these writers' rooms where you write for TV. But that's, you know, this is what I'm trying to do, is to write more, get it out there, get the name out there. But you know, I have a few other little venues lined up that I'm headlining.
Nice.
Mostly private little things that no one's going to come to. Some stuff in Delaware, some stuff up in North Jersey.
Nice.
Something for a Knights of Columbus with a priest in the audience. So I'm very excited about that. My act's going to be 35 seconds.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Where are you from? What do you do? Good night. Try the veal.
I think we need more comedy. I think we need you. We need your writing. We need your stand-up. We need all of it. I think the world needs more laughter coming out of what we're coming out of.
Going back to the first thing you asked and the vein we were in about Robin Williams, and you say, we need you, we need more. And a lot of the people on Facebook, when I had an account before it was hacked, when I had 5,000 people there and a lot of them seeing what I'm doing, now it's 35. I don't mean to brag. But I'm thinking it like a Lego set. It's horrible. I wish this on a lot of people, actually. But, you know, people who follow me, some of them stalkers, we need you. You got to get out there, make the world laugh. And what they don't understand is I really don't want to right now. That's how we feel as people with emotional issues. Sure. That's how we feel as people doing something for 31 years. Yeah. But if it's in you, it's in you. You're probably always going to rise to the occasion. and get the job done. So yeah, I'll make people laugh, but it's not the first thought in my head every day anymore.
Right.
You know, I say, well, who's going to make me laugh?
Exactly. You have to take care of you, and
I want someone to make me laugh.
Yeah. You need to go see a few guys make you laugh, and gals, you know.
Right, but not to discourage anybody. If you came to see me live, you would not be disappointed. It's money well spent. But this is a show where I was asked some questions and I vented honestly. That's all.
Awesome. I'm so grateful that you took the time to talk to me today. Thank you so much for being here.
No problem. My pleasure. My pleasure. Do you want this? They're going for 40 cents on eBay.
Any final words of wisdom or any parting words you want to leave with the audience watching?
Stop hating each other.
Yeah.
You know, God knows I am no flower child. I've made many poor judgment decisions in my life.
Yeah.
Where I just didn't know any better, came from a different generation, wasn't educated. But stop hating each other. You know, and you know, when it comes to your ideology, 3 words: keep it simple.
Yeah.
Let me just take my shoe off and check my math on that. I don't know if that's 3 words. Hold on. Keep it simple. Carry the 2. Yes, keep it simple is 3 words. Keep it simple, folks. Stop hating each other. All right. The politicians do not care about you. They don't.
So true. So true. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you for being here. Good luck with everything. You might see me at the Borgata.
Cool.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.